Imagine this. You're scrolling through LinkedIn on a quiet Sunday morning, sipping your coffee, when you stumble upon a post that shatters your world. It's your son's promotion party. Balloons, champagne toasts, his fiance's family beaming with pride. But you're not there. Not in a single photo. And you paid for the MBA that got him that promotion. That's how my nightmare began, and it's a story of betrayal, awakening, and reclaiming my life that I never thought I'd have to tell. When I think back to how it all started, it's hard to believe I let it go on for so long. My name is Helen, and I'm 65 years old now, living in a cozy brownstone in Boston's Back Bay. The neighborhood is charming, with its tree-lined streets, historic buildings dating back to the 19th century, and the faint sound of the Charles River nearby on windy days. I've always been the practical type, an accountant by trade, crunching numbers for small businesses until I retired a few years ago. It was a job that suited me perfectly, orderly, predictable, with everything adding up neatly at the end of the day, no loose ends. My late husband, George, was the dreamer in our marriage. We met in college at a lecture on economics at Boston College. He was sitting 2 rows ahead, turning around to borrow a pen, and that was it. Love at first sight, or so we always joked at dinner parties. George had big ideas about starting a business, perhaps a small consulting firm, traveling the world to places like Paris and Tokyo. But it was my steady job that kept us afloat through the early years of marriage. He worked in sales, charming clients with his charisma and quick wit, while I managed the finances at home, budgeting every penny. We had our share of adventures, weekend getaways to the Cape Cod beaches, skiing in Vermont during winter breaks. But mostly, we built a stable life, saving for the future. George passed away from a sudden heart attack 10 years back, leaving me with a decent IRA in the house we'd bought together in the 80s. That house holds so many memories. Our first Christmas as a family, when we decorated the tree with handmade ornaments from a local craft fair, lights twinkling, Mark's birthday parties in the backyard with kids running around, games like pin the tail on the donkey, and homemade cakes smeared everywhere. The late-night talks with George about our future, planning trips we never took because life got in the way, like saving for Mark's education instead of vacations. Losing him was like losing a part of myself, a void that no amount of work could fill. The funeral was a blur. Friends and family gathering at the church, sharing stories of his laughter. But the emptiness afterward was profound. Nights alone in the big bed. I threw myself into work and raising Mark, trying to fill the void, keeping busy with spreadsheets during the day and school events in the evenings. We had one son, Mark, who's 32 now. He was the light of our lives, that boy. From the moment he was born, with his tiny hands and George's blue eyes, he was everything to us. George would rock him to sleep, singing silly songs he made up while I planned his future. College funds started early, even before he could walk. George and I poured everything into him. Private schools like Boston Latin, where he excelled in math and debate. Soccer camps in the summer, traveling to tournaments across New England, cheering from the sidelines, college tuition at BU, you name it. Mark was always bright, always curious. As a child, he'd sit with me at the kitchen table while I balanced the books, asking questions about numbers and how money worked. "Mom, why does this column have to equal that one?" he'd ask, his little face serious, finger pointing at the ledger, imitating my calculations. Those moments were precious, bonding us in ways I cherished, creating traditions like math night with cookies. After George died, I think I clung to Mark even tighter, like he was my anchor in a stormy sea. I wanted to make sure he had every opportunity, that he didn't feel the loss as deeply as I did, shielding him from grief. I became both parents, attending every school event, from parent-teacher conferences to graduation ceremonies, helping with homework late into the night over hot cocoa, even coaching his little league team when the regular coach backed out one season, learning the rules quickly. It was exhausting, but it gave me purpose, a reason to get up each morning despite the ache.
Mark grew up smart, ambitious, with a drive that made me proud every day. He went to Boston University for his undergrad, majored in business, just like his old mom. I was so proud when he walked across that stage, diploma in hand, the crowd cheering, me in the audience with tears of joy. But after graduation, things got tough for him. The job market was brutal, especially in marketing, which he had chosen as his focus after a particularly inspiring class on consumer behavior that sparked his interest. He bounced around entry-level gigs that barely paid the bills, internships at ad agencies that turned into temp positions with no security, jobs at startups that promised growth but delivered long hours and low pay, often with no benefits or stability.
I'd see the frustration in his eyes when he'd come home for dinner, talking about how competitive it was out there, how many applicants for each position, rejections piling up in his email. I helped where I could, sending care packages with his favorite snacks like chocolate chip cookies I baked from scratch, offering advice over the phone about resumes and interviews, even role-playing mock interviews in the living room, pretending to be the hiring manager with tough questions. That's when Nina came into the picture. She's a few years younger than Mark, 28 at the time they met. A graphic designer with big dreams of her own, like starting her own studio one day. They met at a networking event in the city, one of those mixers for young professionals held at a trendy bar in Seaport, with appetizers and business cards exchanged under dim lights. Mark told me about her over the phone the next day. His voice lit up in a way I hadn't heard since college. Mom, she's amazing. Creative, driven, everything I'm not. She designs these incredible logos, and she's got this energy that lights up the room, makes you believe in possibilities. They hit it off, going on dates to art galleries in SoA, coffee shops in Cambridge with live music, and before I knew it, they were living together in a sleek apartment in the South End. It was a nice place. High ceilings, modern kitchen with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances, views of the city skyline from the living room window, even a small balcony for plants and morning coffee. But it was expensive, that place. $2,800 a month, way beyond what Mark's salary could handle alone. Nina freelanced, designing logos and websites for small businesses, but her income was spotty. Some months she'd land a big client and bring in $5,000, celebrating with a nice dinner out. Others she'd scrape by with $1,000 from side gigs like Etsy sales of custom prints and digital art. So naturally, I stepped in to help. It began small, like most things do. Mark called one evening, sounding stressed, his voice echoing a bit like he was in the car on Bluetooth during rush hour. Mom, can you spot me for the car payment this month? The transmission's acting up, and I need the car to get to interviews. It's $450, and the mechanic says it's urgent or it could break down. I didn't hesitate. I'd transfer the money without a second thought. $300 here for utilities when the bill was high from AC use in summer, $500 there for groceries when times were tight after a slow month. It felt good to help, to be the safety net they needed, to see the relief in their voices when they thanked me profusely. Then it was the gym membership. Mark said it helped him de-stress from job hunting. It's only $150 a month, Mom. I'll pay you back once I land something solid. Nina thinks it's a good idea too. Keeps me motivated and healthy for the long haul. I agreed, thinking exercise was important for his mental health, especially with the pressure he was under from constant rejections and uncertainty. Nina chimed in during our family dinners, her eyes wide and grateful as she passed the salad across the table, dressed with her homemade vinaigrette. Helen, you're a lifesaver. Mark's been so focused, this will keep him healthy and sharp for those interviews, give him an edge. I smiled, feeling needed, valued. After all, what was family for? Those dinners were special. Mark would bring takeout from our favorite Italian place in the North End, pasta al dente and garlic bread warm. Nina would bring a bottle of wine from a local vineyard, and we'd talk about their plans, their dreams for the future, laughing over stories from their dates or work mishaps. But it didn't stop there. Nina had been talking about getting some cosmetic work done. Nothing drastic, she said. Just a little filler and laser treatment to boost her confidence for client meetings. She explained it over coffee one afternoon at a cafe near my house, the aroma of fresh pastries filling the air as we sat by the window watching people pass by in coats. It's an investment in my career, Helen. Clients judge you on appearance and design. If I look more polished, I can charge more for my work, land bigger projects that pay well. She showed me before and after photos on her phone, her enthusiasm infectious, pointing out how it changed people's looks subtly, making them look refreshed and energetic. The bill came to $5,000. Mark looked at me pleadingly during our next visit as we sat in the living room with cups of tea, the afternoon sun filtering through the curtains, casting patterns. Mom, Nina's been supporting me through all this unemployment stress, listening to my vents late at night. She's the one who encouraged me to go back to school. I want to do something for her in return, show my appreciation. I thought about it for a day, weighing the pros and cons in my mind, considering if it was truly necessary or a luxury, then dipped into George's IRA, telling myself it was a one-time thing to help them get ahead in their careers. Nina was ecstatic when I told her over the phone, her voice squealing with joy. "Thank you, Helen. You're like the mom I never had. This means the world to us, really, and we'll make it up to you." Over the next 3 years, those one-time things added up, becoming a pattern I couldn't ignore, but did anyway, out of love and habit. Car payments turned into a full lease on a new Audi A4 because Mark needs a reliable car for job interviews and networking events. First impressions matter, and the old one is falling apart with high mileage. Gym memberships expanded to personal trainer sessions twice a week to really get in shape for those corporate photos and meetings, to look the part of a professional. Nina's loans for more procedures, Botox every 6 months to maintain the look and prevent wrinkles, a nose refinement that she said made her feel more professional and confident in pitches to clients, even some dental veneers for a perfect smile in photos, piled on, each time with the promise that it would help her land better clients and increase her income significantly. "Helen, this is the last one, I promise. Once I have this portfolio boost, we'll be set and we can start paying you back monthly with interest." And then there was Mark's MBA. He decided to go back to school part-time at Northeastern University, saying it was the key to advancing his career in marketing. "Mom, the job market demands it now. With an MBA, I can aim for manager positions, double my salary, and take care of you one day when you need it." Tuition was steep, $20,000 a year for 2 years, plus books, fees, a new laptop for classes, and even some conference trips for networking. I covered it all, pulling from my retirement fund, adjusting my own budget to make it work, cutting corners like canceling cable and eating out less. I'd sit up late at night, updating my spreadsheets on the computer, tracking every dollar sent, every thank you received, worrying about my own future, but pushing it aside for their sake, telling myself it was temporary until they stabilized. I didn't mind at first. Seeing Mark thrive made it worth it, the pride swelling in my chest like a balloon. He'd call me after classes, excited about his marketing courses, his voice bubbling with enthusiasm over the phone. "Mom, this is going to change everything. We're learning about digital strategies, branding, consumer psychology. Thanks to you, I'm going to make it big in this field. Maybe even start my own agency one day." We'd meet for lunch near campus at a little deli with the best pastrami sandwiches and fresh pickles, and he'd show me his notes, his group projects, explaining concepts like SEO and social media analytics in detail, drawing diagrams on napkins to illustrate. Nina would send me thank you cards, little notes with her artistic touch, doodles of hearts and flowers, custom designs, saying how much she appreciated my generosity and support. I'd frame them, hang them on my fridge as reminders that I was making a difference in their lives, contributing to their success. But as the months turned into years, the calls became less about gratitude and more about needs. More transactional, less personal, with shorter conversations after the ask. Mom, the rent's due and Nina's client payment bounced. Can you cover $1,000 until next week? Helen, the car needs new tires after that pothole on I-93. Can you Venmo me $400? We have a credit card bill from the MBA books and supplies. It's $600 this month and the interest is killing us. Help. I started feeling like an ATM, dispensing money on demand. But I pushed the thought away, telling myself they were young, building their lives, and I had the means. Why not help? I remembered how George and I struggled early on in our marriage, living paycheck to paycheck in a tiny apartment in Alston, scrimping on groceries. And I didn't want that hardship for Mark, wanting him to start strong without those worries. The turning point came on that fateful Sunday. I was in my kitchen, the sun streaming through the lace curtains my mother had given me as a housewarming gift, browsing LinkedIn on my laptop while my coffee brewed in the French press, the rich aroma filling the space. The aroma of fresh grounds filled the room as I like to stay connected, congratulating old colleagues on their milestones, seeing what the business world was up to in retirement, perhaps finding inspiration for hobbies. Then Mark's post popped up in my feed, right at the top, with hundreds of likes already from his network. Celebrating my promotion to senior marketing manager at Tech Innovate. Couldn't have done it without my amazing team and family. #blessed, #career milestone, #new beginnings. Attached were photos from a party. Balloons in company colors of blue and silver, champagne toasts with crystal glasses clinking, Nina's parents raising glasses with proud, teary smiles, her siblings laughing and clapping Mark on the back, Mark in the center with a 3-tier cake that read, "Congrats, boss," in bold icing, confetti scattered. There were shots of the venue, a trendy rooftop bar in downtown Boston with string lights, a DJ playing upbeat music, the city lights twinkling in the background like stars, guests dancing and mingling. I scrolled through the album slowly, my heart sinking with each image. Group hugs, toasts, even a speech from Nina's father captured in video, everyone cheering. No sign of me. Not even a mention in the caption or comments. I'd paid for that MBA, the one that got him the job. $40,000 over 2 years, plus all the other expenses that kept them afloat during his studies and job search. I felt a chill run down my spine. My coffee forgotten on the counter, the mug cooling. Had they forgotten me? Or worse, had they deliberately left me out? The photos showed Nina's extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, even some friends from work and college, but not his own mother, the one who made it all possible with sacrifices, late nights, and skipped personal pleasures. I sat there, staring at the screen for what felt like hours, my coffee growing cold, the room silent, except for the tick of the clock on the wall. Memories flooded back. The times I stayed up late reviewing his MBA applications, suggesting edits to his essays on leadership and innovation, the checks I wrote for tuition, watching my savings dwindle on the bank statement each month, the encouragement I gave during his tough semesters when he wanted to quit after a bad grade or overwhelming workload, but I pushed him to keep going, saying, "You can do this, Mark. This is for your future and our family. Think of the end goal." I called Mark immediately.
my hands shaking as I dialed his number from my favorites, the screen blurring slightly from unshed tears. The phone rang 3 times before he answered, the background noise suggesting he was still in celebration mode, perhaps at a brunch. "Hey, Mom," he said, sounding distracted, with music and laughter in the background, perhaps an after-party brunch with leftovers. "What's up? Everything okay? We're kind of busy here." I tried to keep my voice steady, but it cracked a bit, betraying my emotion. "I saw your promotion post on LinkedIn. Congratulations, honey. That's wonderful news. I'm so proud of what you've achieved. When was the party? I would have loved to be there to celebrate with you, to see you in your moment of success, to toast to your hard work." There was a pause. Then I heard Nina's voice in the background murmuring something low, perhaps warning him or coaching. Mark cleared his throat, the distraction evident in his tone. It was just a small thing, Mom. Nina's family threw it last minute after I got the news Friday. We didn't want to bother you with the short notice. You know how traffic is on weekends from Back Bay, and it's a drive." "Bother me? I was his mother, the person who made this promotion possible. But I funded your education for this exact reason, Mark. Don't you think I deserved an invite, even if it was last minute? I could have driven down or taken the T if parking was an issue." Another pause, longer this time, awkward and heavy, the background noise fading as he perhaps stepped away to a quieter spot. "Mom, it's not like that. It was intimate, just close family. Only special people we see all the time." Those words, special people, hit me like a slap, echoing in my mind, cutting deep into my heart. Special people. After all I'd done, all the sacrifices, the sleepless nights worrying about their bills and future. I hung up without another word, tears stinging my eyes, the phone slipping from my hand onto the table with a clatter that echoed in the empty kitchen, my reflection in the window showing a hurt woman alone. That night, I couldn't sleep. The words were playing like a broken record in my head, haunting me every time I closed my eyes. I tossed and turned in my bed, the sheets tangled around my legs, staring at the ceiling where shadows danced from the streetlights outside, cars passing occasionally with headlights flashing. Finally, I got up and pulled out my ledgers from the desk drawer in my study, the ones I'd kept meticulously as an accountant for decades. Flipping through pages under the dim lamplight, the paper crinkling softly in the quiet house. Page after page of transfers, neatly recorded in my precise handwriting. $500 for rent when Nina's client paid late, with the date and check number noted. $200 for gym fees every month, noted with health investment for Mark. $3,000 for Nina's first surgery, with the doctor's name and clinic address. $20,000 for the first year of tuition, another $20,000 for the second, plus $5,000 for books and fees, all itemized with receipts stapled in. It added up to $30,000 direct, but with the interest I'd lost by dipping into the IRA early, it was more like $35,000 in opportunity cost, money that could have grown for my own retirement, for security or enjoyment in my later years. And for what? To be excluded from his triumph? To be told I wasn't special? I felt foolish, used, like I'd been a fool for years, blind to the one-sided nature of our relationship, giving endlessly without boundaries or reciprocity, sacrificing my own dreams for theirs.
The next morning, with a resolve I hadn't felt in ages, I sat at my computer in the study, the morning light filtering through the blinds, casting stripes on the desk, logged into my bank app, and canceled the automatic payments one by one, my mouse clicking decisively, each confirmation a step toward freedom and self-respect. No more car lease deductions, no more gym reimbursements, No more emergency transfers for miscellaneous expenses like dining out or clothes. It was time they stood on their own feet, learned responsibility and budgeting like adults. I felt a mix of fear. What if they really needed it and ended up in trouble, like eviction or debt? And liberation, like breaking free from chains I didn't know were there. A weight lifting from my chest, breathing easier for the first time in years. The backlash was swift and intense, starting that very afternoon when the first bounce notice came through to them via email. 2 days later, Mark called, his voice laced with panic and accusation, breathing heavy as if pacing the apartment. "Mom, the car payment bounced. The bank says the auto transfer was canceled. What's going on? Is there a glitch in the system or a hack on your account? Tell me." I took a deep breath, sitting in my living room with a cup of herbal tea to calm my nerves, the steam rising soothingly, chamomile scent filling the air. "Mark, it's not a glitch. I've decided to stop the transfers. You're adults now, with good jobs. You can handle your finances without my help anymore." He exploded, his voice rising in disbelief and anger.
What? After all we've been through together? Nina's freaking out. The landlord's threatening eviction if we don't pay the full rent this month. We counted on that help to bridge the gap until my raise kicks in next quarter. Nina grabbed the phone, her voice trembling with what sounded like scripted emotion, sniffing dramatically. "Helen, this must be a mistake. Your family. We need you. Please, just this month to get back on track, to adjust our budget and cut costs like cable." I replied calmly, though my heart was racing, pounding in my chest like a drum. "Remember the party? Only special people. Apparently, I'm not one of them. It's time you manage without me. Build your own safety net like George and I did in our early days." Silence on the other end, heavy and tense, broken only by Nina's sob. Then tears from Nina, sobbing softly. "That was a misunderstanding. Mark was stressed. The words came out wrong. We love you, Helen. Please, we can't afford this right now. The promotion came with a raise, but it hasn't kicked in yet. And we have bills piling up, credit cards maxed from school." Over the next week, the calls intensified, becoming a daily barrage that wore on my nerves, my phone buzzing constantly with notifications, texts pleading for, "Just this month to transition. We promise to pay back with interest, even sign a note if you want." Emails with scanned bills attached, highlighting the amounts due in red with notes like, "Mom, this is urgent. Please respond ASAP. We're desperate." Voicemails from Mark sounding desperate, then angry, then manipulative, his tone shifting strategically to guilt. "Mom, this isn't fair. You've always helped us before. Why now? Is something wrong with you, like health-wise or mental?" I ignored them all, deleting the messages without reply, turning off my phone at night to sleep peacefully without interruptions. Focusing on my own life for once, I started journaling more seriously, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for amid their constant crises and demands. I'd sit in my garden, the flowers blooming in spring colors, tulips and daffodils and reds and yellows, pen in hand, writing about my feelings, my memories of George, my hopes for a future not defined by giving to others, perhaps traveling alone to places I'd always dreamed of. It helped me process the hurt, the years of giving without receiving true appreciation or inclusion, realizing how much I'd neglected my own needs and happiness, putting them first always. But then things took a dark turn, escalating beyond what I imagined possible from my own son and his partner. A letter arrived in the mail a week later, official-looking, with the seal of the Massachusetts Department of Elder Services on the envelope, stamped and formal, my address typed neatly.
It was a notice of a wellness check scheduled for the following week at my home with a social worker named Miss Thompson assigned to visit. The letter stated that a concern had been raised anonymously about my mental health, reports of forgetful and erratic behavior, claiming my journaling was a sign of confusion and obsession, that I was hoarding money and cutting off family due to potential mental decline or external influence from new friends or advisors. They mentioned a possible evaluation for guardianship if issues were found, to protect my assets and decision-making from harm. I was furious, my hands shaking as I read it twice, the words blurring through angry tears. How dare they twist my actions into something sinister, using the system against me to force compliance? This was no genuine concern for my well-being. It was a ploy to get control of my money, to force the support to continue under legal guise, perhaps even reverse the cancellations through court. I called my old friend Sarah, a financial advisor I'd known from my working days at the accounting firm. We had lunch every few months, sharing stories over salads at our favorite bistro, and she knew about my situation with Mark and the ongoing help, in detail. "Helen, this is elder abuse, plain and simple," she said over the phone, her voice firm and outraged. "They're trying to declare you incompetent to control your assets. I've seen it before with clients. Greedy family members using the system to their advantage, sometimes succeeding if not challenged promptly. Let's fight back. Get ahead of this with solid documentation and professional support. Turn it around on them." Sarah came over that afternoon, bringing her laptop, a folder of resources on elder rights and abuse cases, and a box of pastries to lighten the mood. Chocolate croissants, my favorite. We started compiling a timeline in detail. Every bank transfer with dates, amounts, and purposes explained in notes. Every thank you note from Nina scanned and filed in chronological order. Every ignored invitation to events like Thanksgiving dinners or birthdays where I was left out, with dates noted and photos if available. We documented the promotion party exclusion with screenshots from LinkedIn, the special people comment from the phone call. I had recorded it on my phone's voice memo by accident, a habit from work meetings to review later. Now, valuable evidence. Sarah suggested I undergo a voluntary psych evaluation with a doctor she trusted, Dr. Ellis, a specialist in geriatric psychology with an excellent reputation and years of court experience testifying in similar cases. I agreed, and the appointment was set for the next day at his office in Cambridge, a short drive across the river, through morning traffic. The evaluation was thorough and a bit intimidating at first. Memory tests where I had to recall lists of words after distractions, like counting backward from 100, cognitive puzzles like solving math problems and logic riddles under time, like finding patterns in sequences or assembling shapes mentally, questions about my daily life, my finances, my emotions, even current events to test awareness and orientation, like who the president was or recent news. Dr. Ellis was kind, professional, with a soothing voice that put me at ease. His office filled with books on psychology, calming art on the walls, and a comfortable chair with cushions. "Mrs. Richards, tell me about your routine," he asked, and I described my days in detail, gardening in the morning with specific plants like roses and herbs, reading mysteries in the afternoon from authors like Agatha Christie and Lee Child, the new consulting work I was considering for extra income and purpose. At the end, he smiled warmly, shaking my hand firmly. "You're as sharp as someone half your age, Helen. No concerns here at all. Your memory and reasoning are excellent, above average." The report came back clear within a few days. Mentally sharp, no signs of decline or impairment, fully competent to manage personal and financial affairs. Armed with that, Sarah and I prepared for the wellness check, organizing all the documents in a binder, ready to show the social worker the truth behind the report, perhaps even file a counterclaim for harassment if needed. In the meantime, Mark and Nina escalated their efforts, not knowing I was building a strong defense with help from Sarah and Dr. Ellis. They showed up at my door unannounced one evening, flowers in hand from the local florist, a bouquet of roses and lilies that smelled sweet but felt like a bribe to gain entry. "Mom, we're worried about you," Mark said, his eyes darting around the entryway, perhaps looking for changes or signs of decline to note for their lawyer. Nina nodded, her makeup perfect as always, a concerned frown plastered on her face, hands clasped tightly. "You're journaling? It's like you're obsessing over the past, withdrawing from us." "Let us help manage things. Take some burden off you. Maybe look at your accounts to see what's going on. Make sure everything's okay and no mistakes were made." I saw through it immediately. The fake concern, the attempt to get inside and perhaps find my financial papers or plant doubt with more evidence for their case, like taking photos secretly. I shut the door firmly, my voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through me. "Leave now, or I'll call the police for trespassing and harassment." My heart pounded as I locked the door, watching them through the peephole as they argued on the porch before leaving in a huff, car doors slamming loudly. Sarah advised filing for a temporary no-contact order through the courts to protect myself from further visits, but I held off, hoping the hearing would resolve it without further legal drama or escalation, though I was ready if needed, papers prepared in advance. The mediation hearing was set for a month later, giving us time to build our case even stronger, gathering more evidence like emails and texts showing their demands over the years, patterns of dependence and entitlement. I spent those weeks diving deeper into my journals, reflecting on how I'd lost myself in trying to buy Mark's love with money, how it started innocently with small helps, but became a habit of dependence for them and self-sacrifice for me. I recalled how George and I had saved diligently for our retirement, dreaming of travels to Europe, cruises in the Mediterranean, visiting historic sites like the Eiffel Tower, but we never took them because of his sudden death, leaving me with regrets and a determination not to repeat mistakes, to live now fully. Now I'd spent part of that nest egg on Mark and Nina. And for what? To be treated like this? Like a resource to be controlled when the flow stopped? The hearing was in a sterile conference room in downtown Boston, the kind with fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, a long table with water pitchers and glasses, and uncomfortable chairs that squeaked with every shift. Mark and Nina sat across from me, their lawyer, a slick guy in a pinstripe suit named Mr. Helen, flipping through papers with a smug look, whispering to them strategy, adjusting his tie nervously. The mediator, a middle-aged woman named Miss Lopez, with a no-nonsense demeanor and glasses perched on her nose, explained the process calmly, her voice even and authoritative. "This is about assessing Mrs. Helen Richards' competence to manage her affairs. The petitioners claim mental decline affecting financial decisions, leading to erratic behavior and potential risk to herself." Mr. Harlan presented their evidence with confidence, sliding documents across the table neatly, my sudden canceled payments as irrational and sudden financial decisions, indicating confusion or undue influence from outsiders, my journaling as delusional note-taking and obsession with past grievances, possibly early dementia or paranoia. The party exclusion as my paranoia and self-isolation from family, refusing invitations and contact, alienating loved ones. Mark testified, tears in his eyes for dramatic effect, his voice cracking artfully as he gripped the table edge. "Mom's changed so much in the last few months. She was always generous, always there for us with support and advice, calling to check in weekly. Now she's cutting us off without reason. It's not like her at all. We're just worried she's being influenced by friends or is confused about her finances, making bad choices that could hurt her long term." Nina followed, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, her voice soft and quivering, hands trembling for effect. "Helen has been like a mother to me since day one. Seeing her like this, withdrawing and hoarding her resources, breaks my heart. We only want what's best for her, to help her get the care she needs, to protect her from herself and bad decisions that could leave her destitute." When it was my turn, Sarah and I laid it out methodically, like building a financial report from the ground up, presenting binders full of evidence. The financial record showed years of exploitation, itemized lists of every dollar given, with bank statements, receipts, and notes on purposes, totaling the sums clearly. The psych report from Dr. Ellis proved my competence beyond doubt, with detailed test scores and explanations of results. I spoke from the heart, my voice steady and clear, looking directly at Miss Lopez and occasionally at Mark, who avoided eye contact, shifting uncomfortably. I gave because I loved my son and wanted the best for him and his future. But love isn't a transaction, isn't something you buy with money or gifts. They took my money freely, excluded me from their lives and milestones, and now that the support has stopped, they want to control me because they can't control their own finances or live within their means, facing the reality of independence. Ms. Lopez listened attentively, asking follow-up questions about specific transfers, the party incident, my daily life, and even calling Dr. Ellis for clarification on the phone during a break. After a short deliberation in another room, she returned and ruled in my favor, her tone final and stern. "There is no evidence of mental incompetence here. The financial history and psychological evaluation suggest the petitioner's motivations are primarily financial gain rather than genuine concern for Mrs. Richards' well-being. Case dismissed, with a recommendation for no further harassment or unfounded reports and possible referral for abuse investigation to authorities." Victory was sweet, but bittersweet, a mix of relief and sorrow that lingered long after the hearing. Mark and Nina left without a word, their lawyer muttering about possible appeals as they stormed out, doors slamming behind them in the hallway. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, but also a deep sadness for what our relationship had become, a casualty of greed and entitlement, perhaps irreparable without change from them. With Sarah's encouragement, I used my reclaimed savings to start a small consulting firm for seniors, helping them with budgets, avoiding financial scams, setting healthy boundaries with family members through workshops and one-on-one sessions at community centers. It's given me purpose, a sense of independence I hadn't had in years, and even some income to replenish what was lost, with clients thanking me genuinely for empowering them, sharing their own stories. I journal every day now, not out of confusion, but clarity, filling pages with plans for trips to Italy where I'll see the Colosseum and eat gelato in piazzas, new hobbies like painting classes at the community center, experimenting with watercolors and oils, creating landscapes, and reflections on self-worth and resilience, lessons learned hard through pain. I travel a bit. Weekend trips to Cape Cod where I walk the beaches, collect shells, and think of George with a smile, feeling his presence in the waves. Visits to old friends in New York for theater shows on Broadway and museums like the Met, strolling through exhibits on history. I even joined a support group for parents dealing with adult children issues, sharing stories and finding solidarity, laughing over similar experiences, feeling less alone. The group meets weekly, and it's become a highlight with coffee and honest talks that heal. After the hearing, there was one more confrontation that tested my resolve. Mark called a week later, his voice subdued for once. "Mom, can we talk? The lawyer said we lost, but maybe we can fix this family without courts." I agreed to meet them at a neutral cafe downtown, with Sarah's advice in mind to record if needed. They apologized half-heartedly, saying stress made them act rashly, but when money came up again, Just help with this one bill. The true intent showed through the facade. I stood firm, saying love couldn't be bought, and walked away stronger, head high. Now, months later, I've remodeled the house a bit, added a home office for my consulting with new furniture, and planned my first solo trip abroad to France. Life is mine again, full of possibilities I embrace. If you're in a similar spot, listening to this story perhaps on a quiet evening or during a commute, remember, your worth isn't measured by your wallet or what you give to others. Reclaim your life. Set those boundaries firmly. Seek help if needed from friends or professionals like therapists. It's never too late to start anew, to find joy in your own company and choices, to live for yourself fully, embracing freedom and the beauty of self-care. You've got this. Take that first step today.